for its content. Opinions expressed are those of the host and guests and not necessarily those of Bustos Media or its sponsors. Time now for the Tucson Tasty Show with fresh cuts by your host, Wesley Soares.
Yummy, 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 I got love in my tummy and I feel like
Welcome to the Tucson Tasty Show. I'm your host, Wesley Soares, and we're here today with an amazing show and some great guests. I'm really excited about our guest. But before we get into that, we always have to say thank you to our amazing sponsors, because without our sponsors, we wouldn't be here. So Kiki Rogers of Country Financial Insurance, thank you. Bureau Premium Beef, thank you. Dirty Cactus Soap, thank you. Novus Vita, thank you. And Mafia Kitchen, Network Outdoors, Local First, Levity Wellness. And we also have Sirius Visual, as well as your financial advisor, Cody Peck. Thank you so much for being such an amazing sponsor and allowing us to do this show. So today we have, for our first segment, we have Casey of AGRO in Trail Dust Town, which is Trail Dust Town, right?
That's it.
That's it. And who brought in Nick, who's the grill master, which maybe he can define what a grill master is for us. We've been asking, but we'll get to that. Want to tune into the show and see what's going on. Obviously, you can listen to it here on 10:30 a.m. The Voice, but you can go to YouTube at the Tasty Show 520, as well as Facebook at the Tucson Tasty Show. But if you want to be a part of the show, call in with any questions you have. That's 520-790-2040, 520-790-2040. And you can ask any of our almost. Whether they answer is up to them. But all right. So Casey of AGRO, that's Trail Dust Town and El Corral. The beef master.
It seems strong, but
right?
we will
we can
accept it.
accept that. Over 60 years in Tucson, serving steak.
You were talking about how you guys go through, but let's start with how many people come through your doors every year, because I think that's almost more important.
Sure. You want me to take that one?
Yeah, go for that.
Yeah. So at Pinnacle Peak, we would expect to see between 115 and 125,000 people come through the doors.
Say that again. 150. That is incredible. That's an incredible amount of people. And you said that you had calculated out how many cows that is, because what are the cuts of beef? Let's start with that, and then we'll go to the cows, because I think the cuts of beef are very important, because you're not using the whole cow. You're just after specific cuts, right?
Yeah, so at Pinnacle Peak, besides our brisket, we sell a 8-ounce filet, a 12-ounce New York, a 16-ounce T-bone, a 20-ounce T-bone, a 30-ounce T-bone, a 16-ounce ribeye, and we also have been recently selling sirloin steaks in a few different things. So those are the cuts we use.
Wow, that's incredible. So with the every year, that's that you've got to go through some cattle.
Oh yeah, hundreds of pounds a week.
Hundreds of pounds a week, and that's equivalent of.
So a few years back, I did the math on it, and it can be a troubling number for those in our community. Certain folks in the community, but I calculated about 300 head of cattle a week.
But they're getting, we're consuming it, so that's good.
Yeah,
and it's tasty beef.
Yeah,
it's not Vero premium beef, but that's because that's VEPremiumbeef.com. Thank you. And but that's because it's a different cut. I mean, if you were going for more of the whole cow, you would be more likely, or a smaller restaurant. I mean, 300 thousands of pounds, that's a lot of beef. Now,
yes,
you also have ranch beans. You said something about brisket, but I want to save brisket for something else. But you have a really incredible pit.
Yeah. So I think what kind of makes Pinnacle Peak stand out, besides the theme and the environment, is the mesquite grill that we've been using forever. The grill's been standing there since we've opened, and one grill specifically has never really died. Gets used every single day. It has a huge coal bed that all you have to do is basically stir it up, and you throw in some mesquite wood, and it'll start up.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
And it's like camping, but it's inside.
It is like camping every day.
Every single day. And that feeds all the rest of the fires.
It does. Well, no. So what happens is when we open up more than one pit, we will start a fire from scratch with charcoal and anything we need to start the fire, and then we'll build it up. but the side two pit will always stay lit because it just does not die.
Fair enough. So, what challenges have you seen in the last few years? I mean, that is really kind of a different kind of culture around what you've done to kind of overcome some of those challenges.
Sure. I mean, with a lot of the things that end up happening is that, so one of the things that's special about the restaurant is not unlike that particular pit that's always going. There are a lot of guests that have been coming to us for multiple generations.
Right.
So some of the challenge is how do we keep the restaurant basically the same for those guests? So as times change and things like inflation come around, how do we get it as close to exactly what our guests are expecting when they come in?
Right.
So for a lot of it, there's we have guests that there's 4 and 5 generations of people have celebrated with us.
I'm one of them, a Tucson original.
Well, we
I
appreciate
grew up coming to Trail to Sound every year at least when spring training was around with the rest of the family that came in from Chicago. That was literally where we would go, and we'd take over the back room there, and everybody would eat because there was a lot of us.
Yeah,
There's just a
absolutely.
lot of us.
Yeah, that's the cool thing about Pinnacle Peak is you can come in with 50 people, and most of the time we'll be able to seat you in a somewhat reasonable time.
Yeah, and Nick is one of the gentlemen that would actually be able to cook dinner for 50 people and have it all essentially come out at the same time.
The 90 on Tuesday.
Fair enough. So you have a couple traditions, but before we get to those traditions, I want to ask you a question on why did you become a grill master, and how did that start? I mean, was it just something like I want to do that?
So that's an interesting question. I started at the dish room, just kind of a entry level position, and from there I did kind of aspire to move up. I like the restaurant. I like the environment.
Right.
I've worked in restaurants for multiple years before that, and I'm currently a hotel restaurant management student at Pima.
Oh, very cool.
So
Congratulations.
I want to stay in this industry, and I think it's such a cool environment to be able to manage and control basically everything that gets served at the restaurant.
Right.
So it's kind of it's a cool experience that I wouldn't give up at this point.
That's awesome.
We appreciate that.
Good answer. So there we go.
Yeah.
And then you guys have, so anybody that doesn't know where Pinnacle Peak is, it's at Trail Dust Town, and that is Tanque Verde, and Pima is right next to Golf and Stuff.
Mhm.
And if you're coming from the other direction, it's Kolb and Tanque Verde.
Yep.
Or Grant and Tanque Verde. And I mean, there's a lot of interchanges that are happening right in your area.
It's a very weird part of Tucson.
Wilmot and Tanque
Little bit,
Verde, Wilmot, Pima, Wilmot, and Tanque
Grant.
Verde.
Yep, and Grant. Yeah.
Everything else in between.
Yeah. Now I should let you know about something though, and that's that when you have 2 Pinnacle Peak employees in one room,
Mhm.
technically that room becomes a slight extension of Pinnacle Peak.
Uh-oh.
Yeah.
And
have
I
some
can't help
rules.
but notice that you have chosen an accessory today
I did.
that is a bold move when you are in Pinnacle Peak
I
Steakhouse.
decided to put on a tie.
And
This is
unfortunately,
the
there's
Tucson
no
tasting
ties
tie.
allowed.
Now I need to caution you that
Oh,
when
no.
you are in Pinnacle Peak and you're wearing a tie, you have essentially 2 options. Because first is that you have assuredly broken the law, and that's not okay with us, right?
Right.
So you have 2 options. You can remove it, and we'll kind of let you slide. And if you refuse to, then I'm going to have to remove the tie for you.
Well, I can't take it off.
That's
right,
I've
well, I
got to
guess-
remain
all right,
professional.
well, I'm
for
sorry,
everybody
man,
that's,
you had the
gonna
opportunity.
Check it out
But
on YouTube
this is going to get handled now.
Okay.
Just know this was your decision.
All
Just
right.
keep that in mind.
All right.
All right. Here we go.
So as he's starting to do that, why don't you describe what's going to happen?
Well, at Pinnacle Peak, we have a tradition. We have one rule and one rule only, and that is that there are no